Good evening, viewers. Welcome to what is actually a rare occurrence for me. It's a ride after work. Normally, I don't tend to go out for a ride after work because I'm a bit brain dead and I can't be bothered, so I tend not to. But slightly different this week, or today should we say even, in that I'm on call this weekend, therefore I will not get my motorcycle fix. So I decided that it's going to happen today and we've got a nice evening for it, so I'm just going to take a short run around the borders and get my fix and also test out a couple of things. Might notice we have a new DJI Osmo camera. I have been out with it once or twice already on some big long runs, and I will use that footage, but I think the camera was bent a little bit too far back, so got quite a bit of sky, which I don't mind because you can still see mirrors and stuff like that here, so you get some reference points, you know what I mean? But normally I like to show as, let's say, the cockpit, shall we say, because that's just because that's the kind of videos I like to see. So that's what I've angled it slightly differently in order to try and get that cockpit view as well as everything else. So that's what we're trying tonight, this evening. Also, this is a slightly different position. I've tried various positions for facing cameras. Been on the bar, the crossbar here, but on a Tenere that's quite mobile unless you put additional bracing on it. So I didn't really like that. I suppose it might be okay if you had a stabilised camera, but money don't grow on trees, and these old Hero 4s that I'm looking into just now are not stabilised, so I can't cope with it. And I think allied to that, I tried one of my clamps down on the cross on the handlebar here, and I think that wasn't bad. Probably a couple of videos coming up where I've still got that on there, but it's almost for that looking up your nose angle type of thing, you know what I mean? It's coming right up at me from here. It wasn't too bad, but it's not quite what I wanted. And I did try this setup like we've got here recently on another run, a group run, and actually it worked quite well because of the wide angle on the GoPros. It sort of caught me in it because it's not pointing directly at me, but it got me, and it also got the sort of view out over my shoulder here, and caught the rest of the group behind me, which is quite an interesting view. And actually it seemed a slightly better view than the camera down near the exhaust, in terms of a view of the group when you're riding on a group and the view back the way. So I might reconfigure that somewhat. And this will be, I think, the first video that I've put up where I've tried to move to a full 4K setup, so the Hero 4's on 4K and obviously the Digi's on 4K. They're both at 30 frames a second because that's the max the Hero 4 can cope with. We'll see how it works out. It's just going to be a weird dawdle around roads that are somewhat familiar to me, but may or may not be familiar to you. Especially if you ain't from round these parts. Also on this video, I might have a wee practice with a musical interlude, shall we say. Because although I'm not a great fan of you know how you see some bike videos where they're absolutely gorgeous. You know, they're going through the Alps or something like that, and you've got this most amazing scenery, but you've got either a constant track of house music or disco music or some bloody thing that you really can't stand. And while I don't mind that for a track or part of a track, just to fill the gap bits where I don't blather a lot of crap, or other people are talking about videos in general, I do not like whole videos where what would be gorgeous scenery and great filming is ruined by the fact that they've put a music track all over it. And I do understand that, because getting the sound right is probably the single most difficult thing that I've found doing these motorcycle videos. So I do understand why people have done that, because the wind noise is just horrendous, and it's the best way to get your videos up. But it's something I'm not a fan of. But I am a fan of a musical interlude in a film, in a motorcycle video. You know, sometimes a whole tune, but just one tune on a good stretch of road, or excerpts from tunes, or just some music that, for a short period of time. So I do have access to sound, so I might play about with that a little bit on this video. I don't know. Put it this way, if you get a musical interlude in some of this video, or the accompanying video, because chances are it'll be more than one, there you go. And you can give me some feedback, if you would, on can't please everybody in the type of music, but potentially, you know, where the music was used and the length of time the music was on and stuff like that would be mighty beneficial to try and make things better. Always try and improve. I would say I don't improve with every video. I think recently I took a backward step, which I'll explain in a minute. But do try and improve with at least every series of videos. Ooh, hot. It's a really muggy kind of day. It is forecast for thunder showers in some places, which I'm kind of hoping don't happen here, but don't like the look of them. There are clouds. That's where I'm heading. But we'll see. See how it goes. Good God. Yeah, the birds have not liked him. Jesus God, what's a state. See if we can overtake on the downward slope here. It's all planned, we just need the view. There we go. People always cut that corner, you better tuck it right in, they always cut it. I've seen it so many times. So let's have a wee chat about the DJI Osmo setup I've got here. It's probably common to other people. It's nothing special. But I've got running. There's an adapter you can get for the DJI Osmo Actions that you can plug a microphone into and a power source and stuff like that. So that's what I've got plugged in. You probably can't see the side out there. You can see it. And of course I've got a microphone in the helmet and it's plugged directly into that adapter. But in addition to that, although there's almost a battery in the Osmo, I've actually got a battery pack in my pocket here. It's quite a substantial one. I'll run that all day, no problem whatsoever, and the next day, and maybe even the next day as well actually. We could do with something slightly smaller potentially, but what's the treat, shall we say. And that means I've got 128 gigabyte cards in it, so I get about 3 hours of continuous 4K filming. And the only reason I don't just keep going is the cards. I need to change the card. But I've got a handful of DJI Osmo 128 gigabyte cards that I can cycle through. So it's seems to have worked so far. As you can imagine, you do a whole day's filming, which I have done already, and then you take out your 220 gigabyte card, 128 gigabyte cards, both of which are full, and you then download them along with the other 2 or 3 cameras you've got running sometimes, and things. It's a storage space nightmare. I'm not going to birch it Audi boy up my arse now, so he might want to play, I think, being as they approach rapidly from the rear, who are misses. Which I certainly hope not. I can't be arsed with that shit. Yeah, so that's how I'm going to run with the Osmo, and that should work most of the time except for mega rain, because obviously with that adapter in, you have to take off the waterproof door. But I suppose even if push came to shove, I could take the waterproof door with me, put it back on, run it off the battery for an hour or so, you know, and then carry on with the main. So it's not the end of the world if it rains. I did have a light shower when I was out the other day and just left it running. It seemed to be okay. Quite pleased with that. The battery pack is sat inside the pocket of my Orgeo flight vest, which I'm wearing for the first time today. It's like a fashion show here, and it's very good, very, very comfortable. Barely know it's there. It probably impacts on the vent slightly. On this latitude suit, the vents are right at the sides here, so I've not noticed a big difference so far. The amount of cool air I can feel getting into myself. But no, it seems okay. I've got the battery pack in that, my wallet. There's 1,001 pockets I can carry all sorts, which cuts down on the need for massive luggage. I don't ever want to have to buy panniers like that, so I don't want to ever run panniers on, not on this bike anyway. Some future bike I may, but I don't want to do it just now. Although this may be a more suitable bike for it, I think. Oh dear. Fucking motorhomes. See what view we get coming up here, you never know, because you can't straighten out quite substantially. It may be an option. don't you just love being on a bike? When I went out with a view of the car, I'd had a more powerful car than I've currently got. I might have went for it, but got to get out for a view. Can't go if you can't see. Lovely evening. Window here. One of the other things they're trying to do differently is I've always liked videos where you can hear the engine sound clearly, and I know you've got some fantastic videos on there where there's either no sound, but no talking, but great engine sound. And there's a few where you get good engine sound, even if it's in the background of talking. So, sort of, if you were to look at my sort of back catalogue on YouTube, I've fluctuated with having really poor engine sound to having really great engine sound. Sometimes maybe to the point where it's overpowering. This bike did have the baffle out at one point when I managed to, what I thought was crack the sound, but boy, it was really good, especially in the overrun, but it was loud. And since I decided to try and change things, it started off with getting a new helmet and the sound went all to hell because I had a full face, and now I've got a flip, and the sound went downhill. Obviously there's more space for air to get into these helmets than there is in a full face with a proper skirt round here, you know. So I did have a setup where I had a microphone, I think I've mentioned this in other videos, microphone clipped onto the rear carrier, just above the exhaust, and I used to put a condom over the top of the microphone so it didn't get wet, and it was literally just above the end of the exhaust, and it gave you cracking sound, absolutely cracking. And I thought I'll evolve that, so I took off the carrier and I put it underneath the carrier, thinking, it'll be even better in there, it's more protected, etc. And I had a couple of episodes where there was something wrong with the sound, and it took a couple of runs to figure out what it was, and it was actually the lavalier mic that was at fault. I needed to get a new mic, but I had one spare anyway, so it wasn't too bad. So I've put that on, and I put it in a slightly different spot where it's actually more protected from the elements. But ever since it went in there, it's had crackles, shall we say. I'm not entirely convinced that anything to do with the bike. And I've tried various sound filters in DaVinci Resolve to help mitigate it, and it does take it off the edge of it, but it's still there. So I'm not getting quite the sound that I want. There's a lot of road noise in it, and it's not explosive of the exhaust is what I think, as well as maybe a suspicion that it's the mic that's at fault. I've got two sound recorders, a Zoom H1 and an Olympus. Can't remember what the Olympus is called, but I've got that as well, and it makes the same crackling sound on both, so that's eliminated those as being potential sources of the sound. So it comes down to the lavalier mic itself and or the position. So what I've done is I've moved the position of it into a position where we expect it to pick up decent sound. And if that crackling was caused by where it was, it should be gone, should be, but we shall see. We shall see. And if that doesn't work, and we still get the crackle, I do have another microphone that I will try in its stead, just to see what like it is, and that might prove that it's the microphone. Failing that, I'm going to try a different solution altogether. Altogether different. Altogether now, I'm just going to try a different solution. Oh, this is great.